Welcome back to Watch the Bookerman and to episode number 13 of Paul Heyman's TNA 2010. This is the third pay-per-view that we've booked now, Destination X, and with us having 9 matches on this card, I've tried to strip it back a little bit. I've not put too many angles in. I just want to get through the matches and the stories we're telling through those matches rather than having a lot of segments in between. We are in the Impact Zone as always, and I just want to get, like I said, straight into this pay-per-view. So we begin with the traditional opening video package, promoting the pay-per-view and previewing some of the top matches on the card. It's Destination X as the theme, so we see some moments from the history of the X Division. Kurt Angle, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, a lot of other people on the card have held the X Division Championship previously. Tonight, however, AJ Styles and Samoa Joe will focus on a different title, the TNA World Heavyweight title, in the main event of Destination X, but we go straight into the opening match after that, and it's a 62 rated. It's a 2 out of 3 falls match between Generation Me and the Hooligans. The story going into this is that Generation Me refused to go under the wing of the Hooligans looking to try and present themselves as veterans of the locker room despite being just as new to TNA as Generation Me. That didn't go down well, both teams rubbing each other up the wrong way a little bit. We've seen a cocky side from the Hooligans despite them being defeated by Generation Me at against all odds. They've got wins back in singles competition since then, but obviously the tag team division is where it all matters for these 4 guys, and the first fall goes to the Hooligans. And going into the match, we have Brian Kendrick suggesting that he face Nick Jackson and Paul London face Matt Jackson for the first 2 falls, so the idea being that it'll be 2 singles matches, then the tag team match, which the Generation Me members adhere to. But then on the second fall, when it looks like Matt Jackson seems to be getting the better of Paul London, Brian Kendrick's not having it and they tag in, and basically the concept falls apart there. But the Hooligans do eventually pick up the win, 2 falls to 1. Paul London pinning Nick Jackson following a shooting star press. Generation Me are going for a big move. Matt Jackson ends up getting thrown to the outside and hitting himself on the guardrail. Nick Jackson left alone. Brian Kendrick with the sliced bread number 2, and then Paul London hits the shooting star press. It's a decent opener, great chemistry and getting the crowd hotter, advancing that storyline, which in a way has come to an end here, but we are going to still do a few more things involving these 2 teams. They're always going to be somewhat linked as being 2 of the teams in that tag team division. These 2, the Motor City Machine Guns and Beer Money, are going to be the 4 key teams who we're going to build this division around. So they're always going to be at odds, if only just in number 1 contenders matches and things like that. But for now, the rivalry has been won, it would seem, by Brian Kendrick and Paul London. And despite them taking shortcuts in previous weeks, this was more or less a fair, straightforward victory for them. We'll then go into a video package for the second match of the night, and I felt this deserved its own little recap of the story. D'Angelo Dinero and Homicide. Of course, the Pope returned to TNA last month, or it might have just been the end of January. I think it was actually in February. He was attacked from behind by Homicide, who went on to explain that his targeting was to expose the lies of D'Angelo Dinero. He isn't who he claims he is. His whole backstory is fabricated, and he suggested that the Pope was a former cop who is therefore a direct enemy of the streets that he has been claiming. D'Angelo Dinero hasn't really addressed the claims head on. He's been a little bit wishy-washy when pressed on them, but he denied that anything he's been saying isn't true and said that Homicide is just making stuff up. Homicide was defeated by the Pope a few weeks back on Impact, but tonight anything goes with a street fight at Destination X, and it is actually another victory for D'Angelo Dinero, a decisive one this time. Of course, weapons are allowed to be involved, but we get a DDE through a table, so that's the D'Angelo Dinero Express, where he drives his knees into the back of his opponent. I was torn on which way to go with this. It does hurt Homicide a little bit losing in his own type of match, but at the moment the priority is D'Angelo Dinero, and I do see him on a maybe 1 or 2 levels higher than Homicide at the minute, unfortunately. Homicide's somebody who I think is a good sort of chaotic force in the roster. He can always be somebody who can cause issues here and there, but I see more potential at this point in their careers with D'Angelo Dinero. We actually did this as a wild brawl. I meant to do that as a hardcore. I thought I'd change that. So it's a 66 rating, a decent match, and D'Angelo Dinero does pick up the victory and stands tall, celebrating in the ring. He's happy to have proved his credentials. Homicide said that he wasn't a real he wasn't able to really take it to the streets and fight. Well, he proved that he was tougher than Homicide in this match, and a little bit of vindication and validation for D'Angelo Dinero. Not only is he this smooth talker, but he showed tonight that he can get gritty and he can fight, and he beat Homicide. We then go into the X Division Championship match, and it's a similarly decent match. We get in, these matches are above average but not great, which is fine for the undercard. I guess we just have to hope that AJ Styles Samoa Joe match delivers later on. It's good heat and decent wrestling. Kazarian picking up the win, making the first defense of his X Division Championship in 12 minutes and 13 seconds, not with a suicide solution, but with a fade to black. Amazing Red actually doing a little bit better there with a 62 compared to Kazarian's 60. Kazarian benefit from having a hot new move, so whatever move that is. Also helping the rating. I'm not sure how that works. Obviously it gives some kind of boost to the match. I can't imagine it's too many points, but anything's a bonus really, and it is a celebration. Tracy Brooks joined Kazarian at ringside. She was doing a little bit of distracting, but it was again a clean finish. That's what we want more or less on the vast majority, particularly on pay-per-view. You want to have clean finishes, and Kazarian and Brooks stand tall, happy with the work they have done here tonight at Destination X. And we go into an interview then for the World Heavyweight Championship match. AJ Styles, the champion, will defend against Samoa Joe, and he talks up the challenges that he's faced since becoming the champion, since finally being the man who this company was being built around. For a long time he's been considered Mr. TNA, but finally late last year he became the TNA World Heavyweight Champion, and in that way Samoa Joe is different to everybody. Angle, Lashley, Wolfe, they're all great competitors, but as far as he's concerned, Samoa Joe is one of the few people in TNA who this title means just as much to them as it does to AJ Styles. The TNA World Heavyweight title is everything to AJ Styles, and as far as the Phenomenal One is concerned, that goes for Samoa Joe too. Both men have been through it all in TNA. They've both held X Division and Tag and all the titles that are available from them. It's been different regimes, different power structures. Everything has changed in TNA, not least in the last few months, but those guys are the two constants. You can always rely on AJ Styles and you can always rely on Samoa Joe, but it has been a while since Joe held this title, and that means that Samoa Joe is going to be hungry, he's going to be aggressive, and he is going to be ready for a fight. That means that AJ Styles has to be at the very, very top of his game tonight, and he will be in that main event. He did well when going off script. A 72 rating advances the storyline, doesn't seem to help it, which we do need to get it a little bit higher after that go home segment, which was a little bit of a disappointing flop. But we then go into the fourth match of the night, or rather the hype package for it. Anderson will face Kurt Angle, which is a now more personal storyline than it was. These guys really just do not like each other. Kurt Angle made Anderson tap out clean against all odds, but Anderson was not done there. He's not only targeted Kurt Angle, but also TNA newcomer Roderick Strong, who has somewhat gone under the wing of Kurt Angle. He's lashed out as a result of that defeat. On Impact, Mr. Anderson teamed with Rob Terry, only for that hired gun, the one night hired gun it seemed to be rolled up by Roderick Strong. Rob Terry still officially a member of the World Elite, but obviously that drew questions over where his loyalties lie. Tonight we get a one-on-one match with Anderson desperate to avoid yet another defeat against the self-proclaimed best wrestler in the world. Kurt Angle knows he's the greatest. He is not shy of telling anybody that. And in this match with fantastic heat and great wrestling, only a 66. I will check after I've revealed the result what notes I did or what I could have done wrong and check the dirt sheet and whatnot. Kurt Angle with only an 83. I assume that's to do with my booking notes. A 69 for Mr. Anderson. They do have good chemistry and it is getting the crowd hotter, but I'm pretty disappointed with that, a 66. I can't remember Kurt Angle having a match that bad so far in this save, and it's not a clean finish, so like I said, we are keeping the loser strong in this. During the match, Roderick Strong and Rob Terry both end up on the outside because Rob Terry first comes out to help Anderson, so Roderick Strong's not having that and he comes out to help him. Roderick is, however, taken out. In this distraction, the referee takes his eye off the ball. Anderson's able to low blow Kurt Angle. He then hits him with a steel chair, which knocks Kurt Angle out. All this while Rob Terry is distracting the referee. Anderson then locks in what is a rear naked choke in a way and tells the referee to check on Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle is out cold, but not because of the submission hold. The referee doesn't know that, however, and he just assumes that Kurt Angle's been choked out, calls for the bell, and Mr. Anderson picks up a tainted referee stoppage finish over Kurt Angle, gets his win back, but very much in a heelish way, and it seems like Rob Terry is now aligned with him. So it was a storytelling all-out based match, but we did keep strong Kurt Angle, and there was also the involvement, so probably understandable. I would still have hoped for a little bit better from that, but Mr. Anderson stands over Kurt Angle following the victory. As the commentators discuss this questionable finish, Mr. Anderson technically has on his record now that he made Kurt Angle pass out, which of course we all saw wasn't the case. Rob Terry helped him to that tainted victory and stood with the asshole. The commentators wondered what this meant for his place in World Elite, like I said, but he didn't seem to care. It seems like Rob Terry has jumped ship from what is let's be fair, a sinking ship in the World Elite. Roderick Strong checks on Kurt Angle in the ring as Rob Terry and Mr. Anderson head to the back, seemingly a new alignment. I kind of like the dynamic between these. It was just supposed to be a one-off thing on Impact, but when I imagined Rob Terry and Mr. Anderson together, I just liked the image and the idea that Anderson's standing behind Rob Terry, being a loudmouth, getting under people's skins, but having that bodyguard behind him so he can literally just poke his head around Rob Terry, say something, then hide back around him. I think that's going to suit Mr. Anderson's character, where we're going to go with him, because I really just want him to be the most obnoxious, hateable heel, and I think that Mr. Anderson has got that in him. As we go into another segment, the 5th match coming up, and after both competitors have made their entrances, Angelina Love has a proposal for Lacey Von Erich. She tells the referee to hold off on ringing the bell. Angelina Love suggests that Lacey Von Erich lays down. She's given her the chance to quit. She can avoid the embarrassment of getting herself beaten down. Lacey is clearly afraid of Angelina Love and nods her head. At this point, she lies down and the bell is rung. So we're continuing to hint that Lacey Von Erich is turning face, but it's not a very good segment as she just lays down for Angelina Love, and it seems like she's going to accept her fate. She has to beat Angelina Love tonight to stay in the Beautiful People, but from the looks of it, she is laying it down for her. However, it is a bait and switch, and it says within 1 minute, so perhaps we have the bell rung and then Angelina continues her promo, because the idea is that Angelina Love goes to pin Lacey Von Erich straight away, and within those 3 seconds, Lacey rolls up Angelina Love, catching her completely off guard and picking up a shock victory. Lacey Von Erich defeating Angelina Love. She was not happy with this at all. I did keep her strong, but she still wasn't happy. We did it based on eye candy again, just because I thought it'd get a better rating, and it does seem to have. I mean, Angelina Love isn't really helped by it, but Lacey Von Erich is a very, very poor in-ring performer, so I think having her based on eye candy certainly plays to her strengths. Did give the crowd a breather, which is good, and while I can see the argument that this isn't good booking for Angelina Love, it is very much a fluke, and there's no indication that Lacey Von Erich is a better wrestler than Angelina Love, just that on this occasion she has managed to outsmart her in a way which, considering how Lacey Von Erich was characterised in TNA, we're sort of playing off the fact that Lacey Von Erich was presented as she was a complete airhead, and the fact that she's outsmarted Angelina Love is not going to be received very well by Love. After the match, she stands up and celebrates her shocking victory. Even she can't believe it, catching Angelina Love completely off guard. The celebration is cut short, however, as Love, furious, she jumps Lacey Von Erich from behind, brutally beating her down in the ring. She's relentless, she's pulling her hair, she's ripping some out. A violent assault that draws Madison Rayne out from the back. She has been against Angelina Love's actions in recent weeks, and this is just too far for her. She runs down, but Velvet Sky follows her and grabs her around the waist. She is not going to let her help her. Velvet seems to be siding with Angelina Love, those two going back longer than any of the other members of the Beautiful People. As a result, Madison is forced to watch Lacey Von Erich get beat down by Angelina Love. Angelina laying her out on a chair with a DDT. Angelina then leaves the ring, joined by Velvet Sky. Madison Rayne is clearly furious about this, but she's more concerned about Lacey Von Erich, so runs to the ring. Velvet Sky and Angelina Love leaving one way, Madison Rayne and Lacey Von Erich left in the ring, and we are hinting at face turn for Madison Rayne, not actually pulling the trigger with it yet because the storyline has many more twists and turns going forward from what I've got currently planned, but we are turning Lacey Von Erich babyface. She's not particularly a good face, I don't think. I didn't actually check, but I just think that she needs something fresh, and she's out of the Beautiful People after that brutal assault, so we are going through with the turn, and then we go into Jeff Hardy not doing well, that script disappointing, and I've only put this as a freestyle segment for some reason. I don't know why I did that, must have been rushing, but Mick Foley speaks with Jeff Hardy in the locker room, and he's just warning him about Desmond Wolfe. Mick Foley was beat by Wolfe a couple of weeks ago. He knows how dangerous he is, and he's just saying, be careful out there, Jeff. Jeff, of course, doesn't need to be told that he's a risk taker. He is willing to, just like Mick Foley, he's not afraid of getting hurt during a match. So while he understands Mick Foley is only looking out for him, Jeff thinks that he's got this one covered. Before that match, however, we have the Tag Team Championships match, one of the matches that I'm most looking forward to, and certainly the most heated build in a way. These two definitely have a lot of personal animosity, but this will be the first time that they come together. We see the key piece of footage, which was Beer Money invoking their Feast or Fired briefcase after the Motor City Machine Guns had just defeated Team 3D in a tables match to retain the titles. You can imagine how brutal and physical that match would have been. only for them to then be attacked by James Storm and Robert Roode. Invoking that Feast or Fire briefcase, Beer Money became the new World Tag Team Champions, and since then, Machine Guns have been trying but failing to get their hands on Beer Money. Tonight will be their first shot at revenge in this rematch up next. It's a 65 rating, so it's another decent rating. Not where we want them to be. In time, hopefully they'll get there. But this is the first match that Beer Money have had as the tag team champions, and we see that Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin are fired up. They're emotional. Paul Heyman's words from Thursday getting in their heads, and in fact it kind of backfires. They're almost too emotional. They make mistakes that they ordinarily wouldn't do, and this is what ultimately cost them. The Motor City Machine Guns on their A game, doing what they usually do. Maybe they would have stood a chance against Beer Money, but Beer Money just knew exactly what to take advantage of, and they did that, retaining the TNA World Tag Team Championships in a 15-minute match. We did this as a wild brawl. Again, that was booked to play to the strengths of Beer Money, so you could see while watching the match that Motor City Machine Guns were kind of out of their comfort zone. They were trying to take it to being a scrappy fight, which of course isn't playing to their strengths, but like I said, their emotions caused them to just make the wrong decision and ultimately has cost them their rematch. Will they be back in the title picture anytime soon? We don't know. Hooligans certainly will have a claim to face Beer Money. Gen Me also in that conversation. We've got plenty of teams who can take title shots as Beer Money stand tall in the ring, celebrating. They're enjoying it. They're trying to rub people up the wrong way. Like I said previously, they're a popular tag team, or were a popular tag team at the time, so we're really going to have to make them very, very detestable to get them booed, and hopefully we are doing everything we can, and just the way that they act will put across the fact that they are very, very much now on the heel side of the roster. We then open the third hour of the pay-per-view with Samoa Joe being interviewed by Jeremy Borash, and he is straight to the point. He doesn't get into all the things that AJ did earlier. He doesn't want to talk about the history or look back on what him and AJ have done, because he is focused on only one thing tonight. That is the title that AJ's right, he hasn't held for a very long time, and in the Destination X main event, Samoa Joe is going to change that. He walks off, nothing else to it. He is just convinced that he is walking out as the champion tonight. We then get a video package for the third last match of the night. Jeff Hardy returning to TNA 2 weeks ago, showing that he saved Mick Foley from Desmond Wolfe, who seemingly was going to continue to assault him despite defeating him in a match on Impact. Desmond Wolfe, a absolute arsehole really. We see footage of the push from Brittany that sent Jeff Hardy crashing down off the ladder, which resulted in him missing those 2 months of action from Genesis to now. So we're bringing it all back together, of course, and Jeff Hardy on Thursday called that a false start to his TNA return, and Destination X is his second opportunity to make a good first impression. Desmond Wolfe, however, has had a very good start to 2010. He's lost a few matches, but in general he has only strengthened his position on the roster, and he will look to make another victim out of the charismatic Enigma tonight. And it's a 71 rated, so I think that's the best match on the night so far. Jeff Hardy with a 76, that's his second match back, so I'm happy to see him getting good ratings. Puts him on that upper echelon of the roster, certainly with like Samoa Joe and things like that, just below AJ Styles and just below Kurt Angle. But again, we can build a lot of momentum now that Jeff Hardy is back full time. A 70 from Desmond Wolfe, and that's actually reflected in the result. We wanted to give Jeff Hardy a big win for him coming back. Desmond Wolfe has done well over the last month or so, but he did get a loss on Thursday, and he gets another loss tonight. Pretty much clean. Jeff Hardy hits a twist of fate, as it says there, but also a swanton bomb to seal the victory. Jeff Hardy's back. We just want the big pop of the swanton bomb, which is what everybody's come to see from Jeff Hardy, and that is a victory for him, which he celebrates in the ring. Not much more to say about it other than the fact that Desmond Wolfe, he's finding himself a little bit in a position now where he'll get a win. It's sort of, what do you say, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I do want to solidify him as a credible contender, but as the heel, of course, we do have to give him his comeuppance as often as is necessary, and in this case I felt that Jeff Hardy needed the victory coming back in, and of course this storyline now can go on to Lockdown and possibly beyond, and we will see more between these two because this rivalry is far from over, and of course Desmond Wolfe is not going to let it lie at just being defeated by Jeff Hardy tonight. The commentators then switch focus to the next match, the Knockouts Championship match, which is our semi-main event, but the feed cuts mid-sentence and we see Jimmy Jacobs on the screen. He is stood beside Awesome Kong and Hamada. The three say nothing for quite a long time until Jacobs eventually speaks. He simply says, "The new age is coming," before an image flashes on the screen. It's kind of like that subliminal message style thing, and it just says Project 10 cubed or to the power of 3, whatever you want to put that, but just a small 3 next to a larger 10. Project 10 cubed, doing a masterful job of improvising. It's a decent segment 40 rating, just about what I expected, involving Jimmy Jacobs. But the next step of the New Age movement is that there is that project coming, and a little bit of a cryptic thing for maybe somebody can work it out, I don't know, but somewhere that we're leading to with this storyline where we will eventually have a big payoff. I've been hyping this up a lot. The ratings are doing really badly, but I still have a lot of hope for where this storyline's going. It doesn't seem to have moved much since Jimmy Jacobs came in, but I promise that we will start to see some movement as the weeks and months go on. Into now this Knockouts Championship match. I do like to have the 2 main titles, the main women's title and the main men's title, as the 2 last matches where possible. I did think about having this 3rd last for some reason. I think I probably should have now, because I will have back-to-back matches that are all out. Oh, this was a Mayhem match, so actually overbooked. Remember, this is the last knockout standing match. I don't know if they've done one of these before. I know they did one with Gail Kim and Taryn Terrell, which would be after this in terms of the save, but I can't think if they did one before. I feel like they must have done. I know that Tara and ODB themselves had a hardcore match, which is what I would base this off of. I don't know if I'll be able to find that match, but that's the kind of spots that we'd want to see from that match, because that match never actually happened in this timeline, because it happened in December 2009 and I started booking in November, so we'll take a lot from that. But Tara does pick up the victory with a Widow's Peak. ODB unable to beat the 10 count, so assumingly either off the top rope or through a table or something, some kind of big moment. Of course, we had D'Angelo De Niro put Homicide through a table earlier, so we probably don't want to copy that. Maybe onto a steel steps or off the stage. Probably should have thought of this before I booked the show, but the idea is that it's a big spot to decisively say Tara is the better woman. She has defeated ODB and she is still the Knockouts champion, and as far as those ratings are concerned, as far as her performances overall are concerned, we're definitely happy to keep Tara as the figurehead of this division going forward, gaining heat to the storyline. And we'll see now a line drawn under that storyline. Tara still the Knockouts champion as we go into the main event, straight into it. I didn't do a video package just because I thought it'd end up rating not that well and only serve to hurt the storyline, so it's pretty pointless doing it. But it's a 20-minute match, AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe. Mauro Ranallo's announcing, weak, deserving better announcing, but we did get the crowd buzzing. A 78 rating. I'm not sure how happy I am with that, really. AJ Styles with an 87, absolutely incredible. Him and Kurt Angle, like I've said a million times, are these standout performers. Joe letting us down a little bit there. I will look in the dirt sheet actually to see what positives and negatives we got. Penalised for stamina, Samoa Joe, so probably something I should have thought of actually with Samoa Joe. And the lack of associated storylines, so I really do need to get better at building these main event storylines. It's as simple as that. Sting doing a good job as the road agent. We're still keeping him busy despite him not being an on-screen character. But it's an all-out match. What more can you say about an AJ Styles Samoa Joe match? We know they have great chemistry. We know they work so well together. And we know that just their styles, just a brilliant styles clash. And that's why it is such a good match and why we built it as the main event of this Destination X pay-per-view. And speaking of a styles clash, of course, it is a styles clash that scores AJ Styles the victory. It's a clean victory. There's not loads I can say about it other than a very, very good match, as you'd expect from these. And AJ Styles making defense number 6 of the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. And he celebrates in the ring to end the show. A good performance from him, of course. And what's this? We should have gained popularity in 7 Canadian regions, but growth was restricted due to the limited number of viewers, and the same for Britain. Don't know what that means. We've increased popularity in 43 regions. Is that to do with the size of the broadcaster we're on? A 71's not that good for it. I think all 3 pay-per-views have got a 71 now. So I suppose it's consistent and it is better than the TV shows been getting, but not particularly great, is it? We do need to be kicking on at some point, and I think I'm quite confident that we are going to get to that level with a few booking decisions that I have going forward that I think are going to help solidify that main event. Of course, we've got Lockdown next, and the main event that I'm going to build to that, I think, is just about the best match we can do. If we can have a hot storyline going into it, I think it's going to get a great rating. I'm quite confident that Lockdown, which is probably traditionally the 3rd biggest pay-per-view of the TNA calendar, I'm confident that's going to be our best show yet. In my mind at least, Lockdown is the beginning of the road to Slammiversary in the way you'd have a road to WrestleMania, which actually reminds me, Destination X is our 2nd best show so far. Like I said, I quite like how basically our first ever episode, which was built as a pay-per-view style show, is 70 and is the 4th best show we've done. Then we've kind of built on that or stayed the same, but it's good to see that there is a distinction and that pay-per-views are getting better. I just like that. The main event is our 5th best match. So again, we're still keeping it so that our big matches are getting up there. So I'm happy with how this is going. Of course, attendance is always the same. Destination X getting the same buy rate as against all odds. So not necessarily that there's been any growth, but there's certainly a little bit of consistency coming into the company and a good foundation to build upon. And that does remind me that I was going to look through WrestleMania. I almost forgot to do that. It was a very, very strange card. I'll probably just let the event do its own talking kind of thing. They've done the SmackDown and the Raw afterwards, but we see that in the main event, in the semi-main event, Batista defeated Randy Orton and Evan Bourne to retain the WWE Championship, and then in the main event, The Undertaker defeated John Cena and Matt Hardy to defend the World Heavyweight title. So they seem to be building new stars. Perhaps the effect of Paul Heyman coming into TNA has made them see that they need to build for the future. An 83 rating, so it's an okay. You'd probably hope for better on WrestleMania. There's some other interesting matches. I mean, The Miz defeating Hornswoggle to retain the United States Championship. It's not something I'd put past them booking at this time, really. Yeah, you can just see through the full card there. A somewhat bizarre WrestleMania, although Bryan Danielson versus that's probably the match that I'd most like to see on that card. Alberto Del Rio of 2010 versus Bryan Danielson in 2010. But it's quite an interesting card, if not very, very strange. Jerry Lawler team with Primo and Santino, for example, and Diesel, that's just amazing, to be honest. What a brilliant card that is. I'd love to see that event. I've also booked the second Evolve show, which is based almost entirely on the actual Evolve show of the time. I'll just show that on screen now as well as I talk, and it was slightly worse, well, considerably worse than the first pay-per-view actually. The main event not coming anywhere near the level that Davey Richards and Kota Ibushi set, but it got all sorts of penalties, so not going to complain too much about that because that's not what Evolve's about at the minute. I'm just trying to copy what they booked in reality, just so that we've got a little bit of a link, and in the future I'd like it to be sort of a development territory. Of course, in reality it's shutting down now, I think, and we're not going to have any more Evolve, so it'll be interesting to see how in this timeline Evolve's history unfolds. And we go into then the next episode of Impact in 3 days' time. That Thursday night episode, the build to Lockdown begins, and I've not 100% got the card ready yet, but considering what we are looking to build towards for Lockdown, I think that these next 4 shows are going to be particularly good, and I'm really looking forward to what we do, especially the main event that I've got planned for Lockdown, which I think has the potential to be the best match that we've done yet.